Then we'll also look at HR as a profit center, that human resource are the major generators of revenue. Generally, employees are the major generators of revenue. So we look at it in the point of profit center. Then we'll also look at employee net promoter score. And in that case, we are looking at how to assess employees, or what employees are expected to do to be performing. Then we'll also look at the absenteeism rates. What makes employees be absent? What makes them come to work, and all that. So then lastly, we look at a salary competitive rate. Why an organization will pay a certain amount of money while the other organization will pay a different summation. So let's look at how measurement of people and functional performance are done. Now, there are various ways we can measure performance for individuals, and one way is through use of critical success factors indices. Critical success factor indices. Now, I'll ask a general question. As a lecturer, what should I do for you once you finish the semester? Either you pass exam or fail exam, you say that lecturer has done his work. Class, I'm talking to you. As a lecturer, what should I have? What do I need to do so that by the end of the semester, either you pass exam, you fail exam, you still say that lecturer has done his particular duty or her particular duty? Agi, give us your opinion. After Agi, Albright, you are next. Hello, are we there? Christian, Kaluki, if Agi and Albright are not there. Christian, can you give us your perspective? What do you think a lecturer should do? Teacher has done its work. Okay, Albright, I want those specific work that a teacher should have done for you to say that surely we have done the delivery. Even if you fail the exam, you'll not blame the teacher, you'll blame yourself for not having revised, but you say the teacher tried his best. Gentrix, I can see you are on.
Like finishing the whole syllabus.
Yes, finishing the syllabus. Alex?
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I don't know if I've understood your question well, but I believe what you're asking is that how to measure maybe teacher performance, or
yes, yeah,
regardless of whether students are passed or not.
Yeah.
I believe performance, or rather doing your work, will be measured by things like syllabus coverage, as my colleague mentioned, and also using things like student assessment forms. There are those assessment forms we use to assess teachers, and also attendance. Attendance could be used to mean that you are in class and indeed students signed those signing sheets.
Yeah.
Basically, because you may attend class 100% and we all fail, and that may not be your fault, it might be our fault. So basically, those are the three key things that I have in mind. Those are the student assessment forms, lecture attendance sheets, student attendance, meaning that you were there and the students were also present, and the syllabus coverage.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So thank you. So you have talked about attendance, you have talked about syllabus coverage, and then you also talked about how the teaching was. So Now, in that perspective, those are what we are calling the critical success factors. That for us to measure the performance of employees, we have to identify the key things that if that employee performs, then he will have actually achieved the duty, his objective. That if at all we have, let's say, a security guard, his key role is to ensure that there's no intruder, or the security of, or there's no theft and all that. Security of the premise has been provided. Even if the organization does not make profit, but there's security, then we will say the security team has performed this role, but the other persons probably they didn't perform. If I teach you and probably you don't go reading whatever we have taught you, don't go revising, you even don't know whatever we have discussed. So once you have logged into class, after class, or some of you could have logged in and you are also watching TV, you are also attending to other duties, you are in kitchen and all other activities, so you are not 100% in class. So in that case, if at all you will fail exam, you may not necessarily blame that the teacher did not do his or her work. So because we'll be looking at the critical success factor of the teacher. So in that case, we are looking at was the teacher present? Was it punctual? Was he attending the full class or partial and all that? Then number two, we'll also look at the key performance indicators. Now, the critical success factors and the key performance indicators may not be very different. They may not be very different in that they still, under the key performance indicators, we are still looking at what are the main activities. So I could be, yes, I'm a teacher. I could also be performing other duties beside teaching. So, for instance, I could be coming to class and only offer guidance and counseling. At this difficult moment, yes, we do require those guidance and counseling. But if I come to class, rather than teaching what I was to teach, rather than concentrating in covering the syllabus, then I'm only giving you guidance and counseling. Yes, I would have done that bit, but now that was not the key performance indicator. My key performance indicator should be, first of all, concentrate on a coverage of syllabus. So if at all one of you or all of you still require guidance and counseling, then we can organize for a separate place or a separate meeting so that we can do that. Or if we have to conduct that within the class, then we also have to create additional time so that we are also able to cover the syllabus. So key performance indicator and critical success factors work hand in hand. Then we also have service level reviews. Now, when you talk of service level reviews, other books or other authors also refer to it as service level agreement. That there are things that we have agreed. There are things that should happen at this particular moment. For example, when you join in the semester, when you start off the semester, by the end of first month, you should be given work-based. By the end of the second month or beginning of the third month, you should be doing CAT, and you should also be submitting work-based that you have done. And then after a week or 2 weeks, those cards should have been marked and you'll be given your script and probably revision done. And then after that, the scores should be entered into the system on time so that you confirm if there are instances of missing marks and all that. Now, if at all you come to class and I'm not able to give those assignments or to administer those activities when they should be administered, then in that case I will have violated my service level agreement. So in that case, you can also judge and say that particular employee is not performing because he has not done what he was doing when he was supposed to do, unless if there are other contrary factors that could have led to that. Then the number four, we also look at customer surveys. And with the customer surveys, usually if you are coming to class physically, you have been given forms, like what Alex said. You usually evaluate lecturers. Now, you evaluate and say this lecturer has performed, this lecturer is performing, this one has these challenges. You give those feedbacks. So in that case, you are getting feedback from the customer. So we can also use that to assess and see which employees are performing and which one are not performing as per the view of the clients. So that rating I know it could be affected for some reasons, or it could be affected for some reasons, but at least we are able to assess and see performance of employees. Then number 5, we are also able to do employee attitude survey. Now, if we talk of employee attitude survey, the same way you are given forms to evaluate lecturers, we can also provide forms for lecturers to evaluate themselves. And then we'll be looking at how does a lecturer rate other lecturers, or how does employees rate other employees. So some books also refer to it as peer review. Peer review. So when you conduct peer review, we can develop forms to collect just feedback who amongst those employees, who is more supportive, who is less supportive, who is courageous, who is a people defender, and all that. So now employees will assess and say, if it comes to people defender, employee X usually defend. Last time we saw this incident and he went and defended this, so he's a people defender. We have employee X who is compassionate. If you have a problem, it's like his problem or her problem, so he has to come in and ensure you are comfortable. So we can evaluate that and also see if employees are performing or how they are performing. Then we also have process mapping, and with the process mapping, let me draw it directly so that you are able to understand. Now, anyone who can tell us, when you came to Kim, what was your first desk to stop at? You started on when you are seeking admission. Who can tell us? Okay, we'll start. I've asked, when you came to Kenya Institute of Management seeking for admission, which was your first desk to report to? The desk that you started from, then you went all through other parts until you came to class. Anyone who is willing to share? You started with the security checks. After security, so let's see if this is so. Inquiries, yes, we start from reception or inquiries. At reception, you'll inquire about the course content, the course that are offered, what is offered. Then after that, they will also, after guiding you, they'll give you a form. Once you have filled in the form, they will refer you to admission desk, where you'll be admitted and get admission number. Once you have been admitted, then you'll be referred to accounts desk, where you'll make payments for your first payment. Once you have made the first payment, then they will refer you to training desk. Training desk, you'll be given a timetable to guide you which your classes you'll be attending, when you'll be having classes and all that. Sorry. Now, after training has given you the timetable, the next will be you'll go to class. Now, from class, you'll do exam. Once you have done the exam, then it will take you back to the cycle again. You'll come to seek for progression. So you'll go to admission again to follow the same sequence. Now, in that case, whatever you have done here, we have done service mapping. Now, in that, we might have 30 students who come and make inquiries. From 30 students, 25 are referred to admission. Now, and all those 25 will get admitted. But out of that, only 20 make payments, goes to accounts to make payments. Then after 20 have made payments, only 15 probably will go to training to get the timetable. Then from there, out of these 15, all of them can go to class. But now when it comes to examination, 10 of them will feel comfortable to sit for exam, 5 will feel they are not adequately prepared to do examination. So in that case, they will not sit for exam. So only 10 will go for exam. So now when it goes to progression, then it's only out of 10 that we can progress. But from there, probably 2 will not pass exam, 8 will pass all their exams. Now, once you have done this mapping, then we can actually evaluate and see where are the loopholes within the organization. That if at all we received 30 inquiries, and from 30, we were able to convince 25 students to go for get admission. Now, how have we lost that? By the end of the semester, we only have 10. That means we have lost about 15 along the way. So in that case, if we do that, we are able to track and see who is letting us down. Probably from reception could be doing a great work. And that's why he has referred to admission. And admission could also be doing a great work. But now once those students move from admission, when they go to accounts might be careless or might not be following up with all those students and also guiding them appropriately. So you go there, you want to pay fees, you have been given a pay bill or account number, no further instruction, no further guidance, how you can go about making those payments. So you end up not making those payments. You leave the office in frustration or all that. Or you have paid the money, but you go to training, the mood, the tone that the training officer is talking to you, you feel that's not the place you should be. So you end up not collecting the timetable and or ultimately not going to class. So as much as you have paid the money, you have not consumed the service. So we can reevaluate from one desk to another so that we see how performance of each particular desk is or each particular employee is. So in that case, we'll be conducting performance or process mapping. Then another one, we have a scorecard. Then a scorecard is just to record what has been done. For example, if since I come to class, after class, I will record on this date, I started class, I opened the class 7:50, okay, 6:50, students logged in 7:10, we started off discussion 7:15, we have discussed up to 9 p.m. So we covered all that time. This is what you have discussed and this is what you have covered. So in that case, there's a scorecard just to indicate what I've done. So every day, an employee will indicate what have you done. So an employee, when he comes to the office, he has to record what he has done, what are the key achievements he has recorded for that particular day, what are the key challenges that he has recorded. So we can use those scorecards to look at how our employees have actually been performing. Then the last one is benchmarking, and benchmarking is generally comparison. We can go, Kenya Institute of Management would like to be like Strathmore. We can go to Strathmore and learn what are the things that they are doing better than we are. We can go to another organization, let's say University of Nairobi, and compare what are they doing, how are we doing our processes, how is their processes against how is our processes. Then with that, we'll come up with we can learn some 2 or 3 things. Now, with those measurements, there are hindrances that makes it difficult for us to measure the human resource performance. So we want to look at some of the things that can make it difficult for us to measure human resource performance. One of them is weak or poor organizational leadership. So at times when you have weak organizational leadership, then it's not easier for us to measure performance. Or if we have a poor organization of leadership, then it's not easier to measure our performance. For instance, we require a lot of support. I'll give you a practical example. We have been having this class in school. Now we are not able to have the class in school. We have to do it online. If at all the leadership has not provided support to students, has not provided support to lecturers, has not provided proper communication to all of us so that we are able to come to class, then it means it will be very difficult for us to have this class. Probably the teacher can come in, students have not joined because students feel they shouldn't do it online. They should wait until they come for physical classes. Or the students could be joining in, a teacher has not been facilitated, doesn't have access to internet or connectivity, so he's not able to join that particular class. It raises troubles. Then number 2, poorly defined business strategy. that if we haven't defined our business strategy appropriately, then we are also not able to assess performance of our employees. Now, for example, if at all we haven't defined, let's say like KIM, we have lecturers, we have other administrative staff. So if we say our key role is to go and get out as many students as possible, then we take lecturers from class to go out and look for students. Yes, they'll go and look for those students. But once they come, there will be a lot of complaints that teachers are not attending to classes and all that, which can also work against us as organization. So in that case, because we have not defined our objective clearly, or our strategy clearly, then it means it will work against us. But if at all we know lecturers can only go, if they have to go out, we can allow them to go out the days that they don't have lessons, so that we don't have those complaints, then in that case it can work for us. Then number 3, failure to recognize human capital as a source of competitive advantage. That some organization, we don't appreciate, or some organizations don't appreciate that the human resource that they do have are the source of competitive advantage. That the lecturers that KIM has is what is propelling, it's what is making KIM to be where it is as compared to, let's say, KIPS, as compared to NIBS. That we look at what is the human resources that are there. Those employees that are there at KIM are the source of comparison. That if we compare it with the lecturers from KIM and lecturers from NIBS, then we will prefer to go to KIM because of the quality of human resources. So some of the organizations don't recognize that. So if they don't recognize that, then it becomes difficult to assess performance. Then another one, little forward thinking. When you talk of little forward thinking, that some organization only look at today. I need, for example, Kim will say, today I need 100 students in class. So whatever you do, as long as we get 100 students, no problem. So, but now we are not looking at tomorrow. So in that case, we can get lecturers from class to go out there and look for those 100 students. So once they have looked for those 100 students, as they come in, they start the complaints will be high because they are not being attended in class. So in that case, we are not planned for tomorrow. So if tomorrow we go out to look for other students, there's chances that we'll meet some of the students that we brought in and they are not attended to in class. So they give a genuine feedback that yes, as much as we are looking for students, but we don't attend to them in class. So another one is people resource assumed to be unlimited, free, or fully trained. So those are 3 points. One, we are assuming that people resource is unlimited, that today KIM does not take care of their lecturers, KIM does not take care of the employees, because they know even if you leave, we can just substitute you, we can replace you at any given time. Now, if at all that's the attitude, then those people who usually leave organization mostly are the key employees. Because if today, assuming I've trained you and you feel I've done a successful job, if you go to your workplace, you'll be discussing, there's a particular teacher who teaches this unit. The way he explains, the way he does this is very good or whatever. Now, as you share that information, it spirals and you may never know who hears that information or who gets that feedback and how he'll use that particular information. So he'll end up looking that I've had there's a particular lecturer, if we get from this KIM, we are likely also to perform the way KIM's perform, or we are likely to attract many students because I've gotten some good feedback from them. So in that case, those lecturers will be poached by those other or groups or those other colleges. Now, as they leave, the lecturers who are rarely or who frequently miss classes or they don't take work seriously or somehow they're not bothered or concerned are the ones who are going to remain. So in that case, it's going to affect the performance of the institution. So if we assume that employees we can either they are readily available, we can substitute or replace at any given time, then it's a wrong notion. It makes it difficult for us to assess performance, and in that case, it's easier for us to lose key employees. Then also, if we assume that people resource is free, that means they can offer service and we don't pay them. that today I will engage you, you work for me. Once you have worked, then I tell you, if you feel you can leave, I can substitute, I can get the other person, I don't pay you. Yes, you'll go out, but you'll go out crying, wailing, that this particular employer, this particular person is not a good person. He employed me, he never paid my dues and all that. As you go complaining, if I get another employees, so we will also have similar scenario. So if you reach a time that even if I advertise for a vacancy, not so many people can apply, or those who apply are those who are very desperate, and some of them may not even be productive who will apply for that particular job. Then the third one, if we assume that the employees are fully trained. Yes, today you are in class, I'm teaching about human resource accounting, but I'm not training you to serve a particular organization. So that means if at all you get employed in a particular organization, it's the responsibility of that organization to organize for induction, so that they orient you as per the organization culture. I'm not giving you any organization culture, I'm giving you general information. So an employer should not assume that you are fully trained. They should again retrain you. And also, even if you are in an organization, there should be some refresher training from time to time, so that you also update with the current trends. Then number 6, lack of sharing resources. So if at all we don't share resources or we don't facilitate our employees, then it becomes difficult for us to assess performance. I'll give you an example that we were meeting in class physically. Now we have to meet online. Now, assuming Kenya Institute of Management have not facilitated me to get internet connectivity in the house, can they assess that why haven't I gone to class? It becomes difficult. It works against them for management to come and say, I have not gotten to class or I have not performed well in class, yet they know they did not facilitate for me to get into class. Then another one, poor teamwork across the organization. That it becomes difficult for us to assess a human resource, to assess our human resource, if at all we have poor teamwork within our organization. So if at all we endeavor to always have a teamwork, then it's easier to assess performance, because we cannot achieve as an individual. Assuming, okay, in this class you have 6 lessons, I only teach you 1 lesson. So even if I'm consistently coming to class to teach you 1 lesson and you have paid for 6 lessons, it will not motivate you to be coming for just 1 lesson. So there must be teamwork, there must be cooperation, that all other teachers are also attending to you, so that you see the sense to attend to class. So if at all other teachers have withdrawn the service, I'm only the only one remaining, so some of you will also give up and will not attend. But if at all there's teamwork, everybody's attending to you, then we can actually achieve that particular perspective. Any question so far on what we have discussed? Any question so far on what we have discussed, or concern or feedback? If I've taken you too fast or too slow? No question? Are we together? Are we in class? Probably some of you could have switched to TV. Albright, are you there? Okay, Gasheri is around. Christian is around. Alex, are you around? Agi, are you around?
Yes, I am.
Okay. It's good if I also get some feedback from you. If you keep quiet, get demotivated. So let's look at human resource, HR reputation. And as when I was introducing, I gave you an example for Safaricom and Airtel. And you are looking at how do you rank those employees. So that's the reputation. And when you talk of reputation, reputation refers to the position one occupies or one standing in the opinion of others, or with respect to attainment and integrity. So how do you rate me? For example, if I come to class, how do you rate me? That's the reputation that I create. If at all I come to class and you feel this teacher is always hungry, then that's the opinion. That's your opinion, yes, but now that's the reputation. So if at all I come to class and you feel this teacher is always tired, or you're always lazy, then that's the reputation I have built. So in that case, as human resource, we can build our own reputation as individuals. We can also build reputation of the organization. That there's a way that Kenya Institute of Management would like their lecturers to behave. So in that case, there's a reputation that we have to create as a Kenya Institute of Management. Then within those lecturers, there's also individual reputation that we will build. So we have, for instance, there are things that I could be doing, and I'll do in a particular way so that I maintain a particular standard. So there's a reputation that I'll be building on. So when it comes to reputation, we can create as an individual, or we can also create as an organization. Now, for us to create this reputation, okay, we want to look at how do we link human resource, reputation, and finance for financial performance. Now, for us to link these two, that the reputation of employees will also determine how much organization can make. For example, if at all we have organization that poorly pays the employees, then those employees will always be hungry. That if at all, let's say like if Kim is not adequately paying, then I'll be hungry. If I come to class, I don't just come to class to teach, I come to class to evaluate amongst the students who seems to be having some cash. So if a particular student seems to be having some cash, then I can organize that we can be meeting somewhere. I give you a private tuition, then you pay some money. So if I come to class for normal class, I don't cover much as I will cover in a private tuition, so that I encourage as many students not to be attending normal class, but to be paying for private tuitions. Get it? So in that case, that's how human resource reputation can actually affect our financial performance. So in that case, Kim will lose out in that students will start complaining that you have to pay tuition fees to the school, then you also have to pay lecturers to train you. So in that case, we might lose out in our organization. So there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves if we want to link human resource reputation and finance. And the first question, do they have good reputation as a great place of work? If at all the organization does not have good reputation as a great place of work, then it's not we cannot build a good reputation. So there are those organizations that you have heard or you have seen where employees, for example, if they are late, they are given corporal punishment, they are caned because they are late. Or if they make a single mistake, the punishment is so weird. So in that case, they have not created a good reputation as a good place. Even if they advertise for employment, for instance, there are places that you might have said, even if you don't have employment, you'd rather be unemployed than work in those organizations, just because of the reputation they have built. So in that case, they also, as a buyer or a consumer, you are also likely not to go to buy those at those places because you feel the way they treat employees is not the best way. Then you can also ask, do they have the best benefits? That organizations that have the best benefits will always have good reputation. If an organization does not have best benefits, then it will also not have good reputation. And I've given you an example. If at all Kenya Institute of Management is not able to pay salaries, then I'll create a way to survive within town. So creating that way, either I will intentionally not cover syllabus on time so that when you're closer to examination, we start negotiating for tuition and tell you you'll pay 1,000 shillings for 2 hours or for 2 days, or pay this much. So once you pay those monies, then I'm able to come and attend to you and make you comfortable to go and sit for exam. But now there's a reputation that we'll be creating. You get it? So the reputation is you go out and say, at Kim, you have to pay tuition fees to school. You also have to pay lecturers to come and teach you. Then question number 3, do they offer best training? And I've said that one of the hindrances to measure performance is that we assume that all employees are fully trained. So all employees are not fully trained. Like, yes, I could be a lecturer, yes, I'm teaching, but there are emerging trends. There are new things that require refresher. For example, we have been training physically. Now we have to train online. I have to undergo a full training. How do I manage class online? The dynamics are very different. If we are in class, I can actually look at you face to face. I can actually read your body language and other things. But now if we are online, I cannot read your body language. I don't know even if you are around listening to me, or you are busy in the kitchen, or you are busy doing other activities. So the dynamics are very different. So in that case, I require to be trained how to manage the online. So if organization offers those training, then that's the best organization. But if the organization assumes that you are fully trained, then that organization may not attract or may not have good reputation. And then number 4, do they treat employees fairly? No, so at times we'll make mistakes, but as we make mistakes, is the management going to deal with me the way they will deal with another employee? Or are they going to give me harsh punishment, yet they give other employees lenient punishment? So we have to be sure, look at how do they treat their employees. So if they treat the employee fairly, they treat the employee fairly, in that case, that organization will have good human resource reputation. So let's look at the benefits of positive human resource reputation. Benefit number 1, there's increased organizational share prices. That organizations that have good reputation, the investors will also be willing or will be intending to invest in those companies. So in that case, because there will be high demand to invest in that particular company, then the share prices will go up. The value of that company will go up just because there's a good reputation. Then number 2, there will be increased organizational sales volume. Now, I'll ask you a simple question. Between Safaricom and Airtel, which one is the cheapest? Between Safaricom and Airtel, which one is the cheapest? Anyone who can respond to that? Gasheri says Airtel is the cheapest. Now, Gasheri, during the day, how many calls have you made using Airtel compared to the calls you have made using Safaricom? Or how many calls have you received from Airtel compared to how many calls you have received from Safaricom?
Safaricom.
Yes.
Safaricom, most of the people have Safaricom.
Yeah.
So I've received a lot of calls from Safaricom than
Airtel.
Yeah, Airtel is, if the other person calling is using Airtel, that's when it's becoming more cheaper. So if you have a higher rate of people using Airtel in your phone book, then it will be easier than when you have a lot of people using Safaricom. But most people use Safaricom.
Now, do those people agree or acknowledge that Safaricom is expensive compared to Airtel?
In some ways, making calls via Airtel is cheaper than making calls via, when it's Airtel to Airtel calls, it's cheaper than making Safaricom to Safaricom calls.
Yes. Now, okay. You see, Safaricom might be very expensive, yes, but there's a reputation that they have created. that to make Safaricom, let's say, making any call on Safaricom, regardless of the location you are, there are high chances that you'll get connectivity. But if you have Airtel, there are chances that you go to some estate, or you have gone inside a building, or you have gone certain place, then you don't access internet. You need network connectivity. So in that case, it becomes a bother that if you have to make a phone call, for instance, I have to get outside to go to the balcony for me to get a network connectivity. So for that, just for that reason, yes, as much as it's cheaper, but I'll still use Safaricom, which is slightly expensive, but I am guaranteed I'll get network. That even if I'm on my bed, I can still make phone calls. Even if I get out, I still make phone calls. So in that case, I'm saying that if organization creates good human resource reputation, then they will also generate high sales volume. That Safaricom is able to sell more just because of the reputation they have built. Airtel, as much as it's cheap, but still it will not sell as much as Safaricom will sell because of the reputation also. Then they also increased applicant pool, that if you have good reputation, you may not even require to advertise for vacancy. And I will ask this. When did you last see an advertisement from Safaricom that they are recruiting? Have you ever seen a vacancy from Safaricom? Anyone who has ever seen?
The last one was in 2018.
2018.
Yes.
So do you think from 2018 they are not recruiting?
Maybe they're recruiting those higher positions, but with the contact center, it was in 2018.
Yeah. So now they will continue recruiting, because as an organization, there's normal attrition. Normal attrition, it means employees are coming in, others are leaving, and all that. That's normal. But now, because of the reputation they have created, they may not necessarily go out there to advertise, because they already have a data bank that if today we require call center 10 people, or in our data bank we have 100 who have already applied. So we just go to the data bank and highlight or select some 15 or 20 of them, invite them for interview, and then we select the 10 that we require. If at all we require a senior manager, we don't have to advertise. It's not, I've not had recently where Safaricom has recruited a manager from outside Safaricom. They usually either, if he is not from Safaricom, then he will be from Vodafone. So it will either be from M-Pesa, Vodafone, or Safaricom. They only rotate in between there. You get it? So even those senior managers, you find a senior manager from Vodafone has come to Safaricom, or a senior manager from Safaricom has gone to Vodafone, or a senior manager from M-Pesa has moved to Safaricom, and all that. So it means they have good reputation, and they have created a pool that within them they have even, they are likely to produce even CEO of other companies than they would go out to look for other companies, just because of the reputation they have built. Now, for the companies that haven't built a good human resource reputation, you'll find that they will recruit a CEO today. After 2 months, that CEO finds the environment not conducive, he will leave. Probably those few employees who have sustained there, who are staying there, are the junior staff, because the pressure to them is not that high, and they're also there just because there's not too much work, and the salary is consistently flowing. But if there's an employee who is concerned about growth, probably most of them will move from there. So let's look at emerging trends and the criteria for rating human resource. One, we have profit generated by employee. Now, if we talk of profit generated by employee, that we are looking at it in an organization, how much money have we generated as revenue? But as we generate this revenue, what is the contribution of individual employees? For example, if we are talking about lecturers at KIM, let's say we are using KIM as an example, then we can look at lecturers. Who amongst the lecturers is able to attract as many students in class as possible. That if a lecturer, for example, who is consistently absent, or when he come to class, a lot of excuse and all that, so you may not discuss much. So such an lecturer may not influence as many students to come to class as possible. So in that case, the productivity of that particular lecturer is low. But if there's a lecturer who is consistent in class, covers as much workload as possible, then in that case, we can evaluate that and say, this is what he has contributed, that this number of students have come to class just because of him. So in that case, the amount of money that those students have paid is because of his work and dedication. So in that case, we can evaluate how much that employee has generated. If you're discussing about companies that are dealt with the production and sales, we can look at those sales team. How, yes, as much as we have sold this much, but there's a particular employee who has pushed more sales than other employees. So in that case, we are looking at it as he's more productive. If we look at those who are working in production department, then we can look at whom among them has produced more. That yes, we could be, let's say we are working in a bakery, we are making bread. As much as we are baked bread, we have produced 1,000 units, but there could be one employee who has put in much effort to generate that 1,000. Probably the effort he has put in was to get us 800 breads, while other employees have only worked on 200. So we can evaluate on that perspective. Number two, we can look on salary or wages cost compared to industry median. So in that case, we look at how much are we paying employee as compared to what other organizations are paying. So how much are we paying salary at Kenya Institute of Management? And if we compare with the other colleges within the sphere of Kenya Institute of Management, how much are they paying? So in that case, we are able to evaluate and see how employees are performing. Then number three, number of talented candidates applying for advertised and unadvertised vacancies. That we can evaluate performance of an HR performance of an organization if at all we see so many candidates applying, even if we have not advertised. That today Kenya Institute of Management could not have advertised a vacancy, but we have people who just apply, who are just doing guesswork. Let me try and advertise at Kenya Institute of Management. Let me try and advertise for this particular job. Probably this job could be there. So if we receive so many applications for the jobs we have not advertised, then it means we have high reputation outside there. And if at all we advertise for vacancy, if we receive so many applications, then it also means we have created a good reputation. But if at all we advertise for a vacancy, then very few people apply, and some of those who apply even don't qualify for the job, then it also means we have low human resource reputation. Then next one, time taken to certify customer orders, inquiries, complaints, compared to service standard. That how long does it take us to certify our orders? For example, if now you place any complaint on a Facebook, Safaricom Facebook page, and you also raise a similar complaint on the Airtel Facebook page, which one are you likely to get a response immediately or within a shorter period? Cashier says Safaricom. So, and between the two, which one do you know it's very busy, receives a lot of complaints, a lot of feedback, between Safaricom and Airtel? Safaricom, yes. Now, Safaricom will receive a lot of feedback, but they have put in a good communication team that if you place, even now, if you place a complaint on Facebook, in next 1 hour, you should have received a feedback. If I place the same complaint, let's say on Airtel Facebook, there are chances that I'll get feedback tomorrow by 10. So in that case, then we can say that the reputation of Safaricom, human resource for Safaricom, is high because they are so much dedicated on how they resolve those issues or complaints. Then another one, incidents of customer complaint caused by employee behavior. That if at all you'll complain because of my behavior, then it means that our reputation is low. If you'll complain on general things, whatever has happened, but not necessarily because of my behavior, then it means we have a good reputation. But if my behavior will make you complain, probably the way I've addressed one of you is I've not addressed in appropriate way, or some of the example I've given that have hurt you in a way or the other, then it means that we don't have good reputation. Then another one, cost of rework. That if, imagine this, if I was to train you, then you have to go and complain, get another teacher to start over fresh, and then say, just start over fresh. Whatever we are being trained, we never had. We never got understood whatever we are being trained on. Then it means that the company has to pay the lecturer, the new lecturer, again what they had already paid me for training. Get it? Now that cost, it also determines the reputation of our human resource. That organization that has good human resource reputation, they will not have those rework. That if I was to leave Kim today and you get another lecturer, you just say, this is where we were, progress from there. You will not insist that that lecturer has started from introduction, covering whatever we have covered, because the way you have covered, you understood, and that you are comfortable with that. Then another one, cost or risk due to time lost through injuries, absence, and disputes. That we also look at how much cost have we incurred. For instance, if you came to class and rather than me coming to class to attend to you, I was to attend to a disciplinary case. So in that case, we have lost time. You have lost time. For instance, you have made arrangements to be in class. I'm not coming to class because I'm attending to disciplinary case. Or you have come to class, I'm not available because I've been injured. Or you have come to class, I'm not available because I'm absent and did not communicate to you. So in that case, we can look at the cost that we incur. Those costs escalate. That if you came this week, I'm not around and I didn't communicate. Next week, I'm not around and I did not communicate. So in that case, you are likely to start complaining. And then as you complain, the organization will incur cost because some of you will make a decision to go to other colleges. And in that case, we lose out on customers, or you'll complain of you are paying fare to come to class and I'm not attending. You are making arrangement to get bundles and I'm not attending. So that we can evaluate those costs and say how reputation of employees is. Then another one is rate or cost of unplanned turnover among good performers. So if we have good performers, I've given you an example that most organizations, those employees who are good performers are the ones who are easily to leave the organization. And they will leave organization because they are sought after. And I gave you an example. Remember, I gave you an example that if I told I train you and you feel I've trained you sufficiently, tomorrow if you go to your workplace, you are likely to give a story that we had this teacher. Hey, yesterday we learned a lot. We learned about this and we applied this and this can. So as you share that information, you may not be aware of who else gets or how the person gets that, who gets that information is actually going to apply it or use it. So if at all he gets and he's an administrator in a particular college, then he might look for that particular lecturer, and because he was performing. So if at all we can look at what costs are we incurring to replace those good performers, or at what rate are we losing our best performers? So if we are losing so many best performers in our organization, then it means our human resource reputation is not that good. And remember, I've said Airtel could be paying higher salary. If we are still using Airtel and Safaricom as an example, Airtel could be paying higher salary, but it may be difficult for Airtel to attract employees from Safaricom. But Safaricom could be paying low salary, but it may be easier for Safaricom to attract employees from Airtel. That yes, I'm an employee with Airtel, I'm being paid 70,000, but it's easier for me to accept a duty at Safaricom where I'll be paid 60,000. I'll get a deduction of 10,000, but now it's the reputation, get it? So we also look at the turnover, how employees join and leave our organization tells us about much about employee reputation. Then another one, percentage of customers citing service quality, competent, caring staff as a competitive edge for the company. That we have said that some how to evaluate how employees perform. We can also get feedback from customers. Now, if at all we give you evaluation forms, we send you. Sometimes you are given physical evaluation forms. Then sometimes you are also sent a link where you feed in your feedback. Now, if at all I give you you get those leads or link or forms, then you fill in and you cite. Yes, in this class or in this particular semester, lecturer X was the best lecturer, lecturer Y was the best, lecturer Z was the best, but lecturer G was not the best because of this and this. He needed to improve in that perspective. Then we can evaluate and say what percentage of students are saying lecturer G is actually the best lecturer. So from that, we can also evaluate and see the reputation of our human resource. Then net cost of generating organizational improvements. That how do we improve on our organizational? How do we review on our improvements? How much do we need to pay for us to do improvement? Now, I give you an example. There are a number of universities that have never implemented online classes. That even after the first lockdown, yes, it came by surprise. Some colleges tried, it failed. KIM at least installed a system, and it has been running that even if we resumed physical, the online was still an option that you could join. And there are some learning institutions that could not initiate that, either because they tried to initiate and students did not appreciate or did not migrate. So in that case, as we have lockdown now, all those students have put a pause on their on their learning. So in that case, for that particular institution to improve on their performance, then it means it has to incur huge cost. They have to start training. If the school resume, they have to start training their students how to use online classes. They have to train their employees how to train on online. So it will incur huge cost compared to KIM that after the first closure or lockdown, we learned from it, we introduced online that this time when there was a closure, already students knew there's an alternative online. So all of you appreciate, and then it was easier to migrate you to online. Then another one, percentage of revenue or profit coming from initiatives taken in last 3 years. That we can do, for instance, when you join in, when you fill in form, you are usually asked, how did you learn about KIM? So some of you will say we saw on an advert, TV advert. But now, if we evaluate the last time we advertised through TV, it could be, let's say, 3 years ago. It could be 2 years ago. We have never advertised from TV. So it means that advertisement still has impact even up to today. Or some of you would say you saw us in participating in a social corporate responsibility. So now, if at all we participated in social corporate responsibility long time ago, then and we are still getting referral or we're still getting clients from that particular initiative, then it means we have a good reputation that we created an impact with that particular social corporate responsibility. Then you can also evaluate through share prices, share price premium compared to the industry peers. That if at all our share price is going up, the value of our share price is going up compared to other industry, other companies within the same industry, then it means we also have good reputation. So any question up to that particular moment? We still have about 7 minutes plus 10 minutes that you delayed in the other class, or 17 minutes for you to ask questions. If you don't, you can also say you don't have, the content is clear, and we move on. Thank you, Alex. So I'd like to skip. Thank you, Gasheri and Alex. Now, this part of human resource accounting, we also covered it under chapter 1, why human resource is receiving much attention. And we discussed a number of reasons that now conventional accounting is also starting to appreciate human resource as an asset and all that. So we'll not delve much into that unless if you read and get somewhere where you can't understand. So also on these problems of reporting of human resource assets, we also covered under the challenges of human resource accounting. So we can still refer to the same what we had already discussed. How much it is? Let's discuss the human resource audit, and then we call it a day. Let's discuss human resource audit. And then next week when we meet, we'll discuss about monitoring cost of human resource. I believe this will take us about those 17 minutes that we do have. So an audit is a systematic and independent examination of books, accounts, statutory records, documents, and vouchers of an organization to ascertain how far the financial statements as well as non-financial disclosures present a true and fair view of the organization. In that case, as we review those documents, but now in this case, we'll be reviewing about human resources, that if we are reviewing about human resources, how is it representing the organization? Now, if we look at the case of Kenya Institute of Management, we could be having a number of lecturers, and of those number of lecturers, we have those who have huge workload and they are actually carrying the institution, and we also have those who have very little workload that is not sustainable, that we may not even compute how to pay them. So we can do an audit to find out who are those who are very occupied and who are those who are not very occupied. So why do we need to conduct human resource auditing? One is to identify needs for improvement. That when we conduct human resource auditing, we can identify why in some areas where we can improve. And I've given you that example that we might have 50 lecturers, for example. Out of 50 lecturers, 20 of them have huge workload. They're in class after class, they're attending student on attachment. After that, they're attending students who are preparing projects and all that. Then we have the other 30 who only go to class, and after class, they don't have much to offer. So if we do an audit, we can actually identify and see if we can offload some of those duties to those who are overloaded to the other lecturers so that all of us can improve. Because if you have to be busy from morning to evening, and yet there's another lecturer who is not that much engaged, then it means your efficiency level is likely to go down. Number 2, to review every aspect of management of human resource to determine the effectiveness of each program in organization in order to enhance human resource reputation. That there are programs that management will introduce to the organization. Then our key concern will be to evaluate how effective those programs are to the organization. Some of the programs are just cost for nothing, and they may not assist the organization. For example, if at all my proficiencies within accounting and finance and management, they organize for training in another area, let's say procurement, and I don't have much interest in procurement. So if I attend that training, it's just a cost and it may not assist me much. So it's better if they organize for trainings and those trainings are within the area of competency. Then number 3, assess the compliance and with ever-changing rules and regulations. That we do conduct audit to ascertain how people are complying or how people are coping on with the rules and regulations that are always changing. So that if you don't change to adopt the new rules, then we have to correct you in an appropriate way. Then number 4, to seek explanation and information in respect of failure and success of human resources. That we can get some explanation why a certain human resource or why we have not performed or have not done whatever we were to do as human resource. Then another one is to review the efficient application and use of resources. Remember, I gave you an example that if at all a company like Kenya Institute of Management buys a motor vehicle, but they don't recruit a driver, then it means that the motor vehicle is not going to be fully utilized, that there will be no efficient use of that resource. Because if at all a manager goes to drive that motor vehicle and his destination is a manager, not a driver, in case it gets into an accident, the company cannot claim for compensation from insurance. So in that case, that motor vehicle will not be fully utilized. Then another one, to evaluate implementation of policies. That when you conduct audit, we evaluate and see how policies are being implemented. Are they being fully implemented, or some of them are they getting stuck? Then number 7, to evaluate the performance of employees. Now, when you evaluate the performance of employees, we look at how effective are they productive, who is very productive, who is less productive, and all that. So in that case, we are able to rate our employees. Then number 8, to seek priorities, values, and goals of management philosophy. That when we conduct audits, we can actually set now the objectives, the goals, that if at all we conduct audit and we realize our employees require training in a particular area, then we organize for those trainings. So it becomes our priority to organize for that particular training. If we conduct an audit, and then we realize that we have more lecturers who can teach a certain area and we have lesser lecturers who can teach other area, then we can make it a priority to recruit other lecturers to fill in this space, or to right size by reducing those numbers. So those lecturers who are teaching common area, and they are there in plenty. So now let's look at comprehension of human resource audit. What should be included? What should be included in a comprehensive human resource audit? So number 1, we should look at hiring and onboarding. That when you are auditing a human resource, we should look at the core. How are we hiring? How are we getting human resources? Because that's where we'll have a challenge. But we might advertise, let's say Kenya Institute of Management, Nairobi could say we have a deficiency in lecturers, but we will require lecturers who can teach accounting and quantitative units. But now human resource recruit lecturers and they supply us with the lecturers who can teach organizational behavior and other units. So in that case, they have not cured the problem that we had. So yes, they have given us lecturer, but now they cannot serve the purpose. So when you conduct audit, we have to look at how are we recruiting, so that we also clears the process, so that we hire only what we require. And then number 2, benefits. We look at the benefits. How are we paying the employees? Now, an organization can say our wage bill for the organization is 10 million. But of 10 million, we could be having, let's say, 2 or 3 persons, or let's say 5 people who are taking half of that. That we have 5 employees who are being paid $1 million plus. So in that case, they're taking more than half of that money. Then the remaining is what is distributed among 70 employees or 8 employees. So in that case, we have to look at those benefits. How are they being shared? So if at all there's a lot of disparities, then it means also production is likely to be affected. Then we also have to look at the compensation. And when you talk of compensation, still, we might look at work that you do against what you are paid. That if at all I have a lot of workload, yet I'm paid a small amount of money, and I have a colleague who is a lecturer yet also has little workload and is paid same amount, then in that case, it's likely to bring in production issues, because I'll start complaining, how comes I have this number of lessons, yet I'm paid the same amount with somebody who has less number of lessons. Then we also have performance evaluation process. How do we evaluate our employees? So we have to audit the process of which we evaluate our employees. Some of those processes could be hindering the performance of organization. That if at all we are concerned about, let's say, if we are evaluating Kim and we will only evaluate how many classes I've attended, then in that case, I can only come to class 20 or 30 minutes and record I've already attended that particular class. So I don't look at how much I've covered. But if from audit, we realize that there's poor syllabus coverage, then we can also change. We can recommend that rather than looking at how many classes I've attended, look at how much syllabus I've covered. So in that case, it can change the dynamics and also change the performance. Then we can also look at the termination process and exit interview. That when employees have to leave the organization, how do we treat them? How do we take them? So there are organizations that when you leave, you become an enemy. They'll treat you as an enemy. Immediately you leave, they'll put their posters, this employee ceased to be our employee from this date. Anything that he does, he may not. So now, if at all that's what you're going to do, then it means that that employee cannot come back. But under normal circumstance, I am here in Kim. Tomorrow I can go to Strathmore. From there, I can come back to Kim and all that. Because if I leave Kim, I'm not creating enmity. I'm not betraying Kim. There's something that I'm probably going there. If I go there, probably there's some experience that I'll get there that I couldn't have gotten from Kim. So how we treat those employees who, when they're leaving, also can tell us much about the reputation. Then we can also audit on job descriptions, that at times you could have been given a different job description and you are working on a different job. So that also can create dissatisfaction or can affect your performance. Then the other place we can review or we can audit is form review. Form review. So we can review the form at which you are attending to or whatever you are working on. Then we can also audit our personnel file. So for instance, when you joined the organization where you are working, you didn't have a diploma in human resource management. So once you have graduated with your diploma and you have given your human resource a copy of that certificate or a diploma, then it means there could be, if there are chances of promotion, you should be considered. So we can also review our personnel file to see how many discipline cases have you had, how many career progression have you done, what activities have you involved in yourself in career progression and all that. So reasons for us to conduct a human resource audit, we have reviewed that are the same as what you have discussed up there. That's a repetition. So we can look at the approaches of human resource audit. Approaches of human resource audit. One, we have comparative approach, and this approach is to undertaken an audit in comparison to other related companies. That we can compare, let's say, if at all, I'm using Kenya Institute of Management as an example. If at all Kenya Institute of Management, we have 20 lecturers. And of these 20 lecturers, let's say other lecturers have to work extra duties, others have lesser duties. So in that case, we can do the comparison with other teaching or training institution. We can compare how much workload does let's say, lecturers at KIPS assigned. How many workload are lecturers at Pioneer University assigned? Then you can also compare with the KIM and see if at all we are fair or not fair. Then number two, it's compliance approach. And for compliance is relative to legislation, policies, and procedures. That we can conduct audit just to look at if we are actually doing as per what the law dictates. For example, for a number of years, or for a number of years in education, a diploma used to take 1 year, 6 months. That you'll have 3 semesters. Okay, you'll have okay. The diploma was to take 3 semesters. Now that semester was left to be liberal. That some institution will say our semester will be 3 months. That you come in January, we train you January, February, March, April, you do exam. Then you come in May, June, July, August, you do exam. You come September, October, November, December, you do exam. You have finished the 3 semesters, you get your diploma. But now Ministry of Education brought in some control and said a diploma should not take less than 1 year, less than 2 years rather, should not take less than 2 years. So it's still the same workload, but now it had to spread so that you have your diploma, your semester running for 6 months, then so that you have classwork of 1 year, 6 months, then you also have a field experience where you'll conduct research study, you'll prepare an attachment report and all that for another 6 months so that you comply with that. So if we conduct such kind of audit, then we will be looking at, are we actually complying with that? Then you can also be looking at the same act of parliament or law indicates that if you get a certain grade in high school, this is the highest level you can start, or the level you should start with your need trainings. So with the compliance approach, we can be looking at how do we admit. Do we get some instances where somebody has a D+ and you have admitted him directly to do a diploma? We have instances where somebody has a C- and we have admitted to start with the certificate. So in that case, it will be a compliance approach. Then we have MBO approach and set targets by organization. Okay, MBO in full stand for management by objective. That we can set targets at the beginning of the period. Then at the end, we conduct audit to see have we met those objectives or haven't we met those objectives. So in that case, we'll be taking MBO approach. And then number 4 is outside authority approach. And with the outside authority approach, now we do the comparison of different organizations. How is KIM performing compared to University of Nairobi? How is KIM performing compared to KIPS? How is KIM performing compared to Strathmore University and all that? So in that case, we'll be adopting the outside authority approach. Then the last one is statistical approach, and is based on internal information, analytical such as absenteeism, employee turnover, and all that. So we could be concerned about the internal, how our employees are leaving and also joining and all that. So we are only concerned about the statistics, the information that's within the organization. So any question up to that end? Anyone with a question or a concern? If there's none, I would like to adjourn at that particular point. So when we meet next week, we should start from human resource cost monitoring. Human resource cost monitoring. That's where we'll start off from next week. So who is volunteering to close for us the meeting for today? Hello. Anyone volunteering to close for us the meeting for today? Agi, are you there? Christine, are you there? Gasheri, are you there? Gentrix, are you there? Alex, are you there? Or you have gone to watch movies? Okay. So who is volunteering to close for us? You either ask a question or whoever has a question you can ask. If there's none, one of you can volunteer to pray for us. Gasheri. Okay, Christine. Okay, Christine. Bless her. Christine, you had unmuted to close for us. Then,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yes, with a word of prayer.
Yes.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this night, thanking you for the gift of life you have given unto us. Oh Lord, see us through in each and everything that we do. Be with us and guide us in all that we undertake. Lord, as we part this evening, wherever each and everyone is, bless us and be with us in all what we do. And it is mighty name of our Lord we pray, trusting and believing. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay.
So I wish you all the best. Let's meet next week, same time, same place.
Okay.
Also, because I've recorded the next week, okay. But because I've recorded the class, I'll send you a link in due course. So in case you would like to use for revision, you can refer to it.